Hello guys, welcome to Pokédex, the channel where I build decks for the Pokemon trading card game. Today I'm still going strong with my quest to find the best deck for Nationals. I already played Seismitoad, Shaymin, and this deck also features Shaymin and also item locks the opponent, but I actually feel like it has a decent matchup against Seismitoad Shaymin, and that's pretty good because Seismitoad Shaymin is probably the deck to beat. Probably the best deck, but this one I think actually has a favorable matchup, mostly because it uses Trevenant for great effect, and Trevenant is a non-EX Pokemon. So the good thing about Trevenant is it item locks, but it does not need to attack to do so. So if we have Trevenant in the active spot, it is item locking the opponent's Seismitoad, which means we can actually start playing our energy without being afraid of the opponent's hammers, and that's pretty good. So let's start looking into the deck. As I said, this is a Shaymin EX based deck. It uses setup the same way that the Seismitoad deck does, so we want to put Shaymin down, draw a lot of cards, do that over and over again. The difference here is that we do not have scoop ups, because Shaymin actually, we can't really scoop up the Trevenant. That would be very bad for us, because we have to put the Phantom down, because Trevenant is a stage 1. So how are we going to get Shaymin back into our hand? Well, we can use Sky Return, because it returns Shaymin to our hand, and because Trevenant does not need to attack in order to item lock, when Shaymin gets to our hand, Trevenant goes to the active position, it's promoted, and immediately Forest Curse comes into play and the opponent cannot play items, so that works out pretty well. We don't need scoop ups for that, so that makes this deck really synergetic. We also have a single Jirachi X in here, and you'll see why in a minute. It's really important that we get a supporter, especially early on in the game. I'm playing a 4/4 Trevenant line because it's our main Pokemon of the deck. At the end of the day, we really want to get Forest Curse going as fast as we can, and we don't really care, we don't really mind attacking with Tree Slam, right? I mean, for 3 energy, it does 60 damage plus 20 to 2 of our opponent's benched Pokemon. So if we actually manage to hit a Seismitoad that's on the bench with Tree Slam, we can later use Tree Slam again twice with a Muscle Band on, and that means that's a knockout on a Seismitoad. So that's pretty quick and pretty decent, I think, way to get knockouts on EX Pokemon. The bench damage really adds up really quickly, especially since most of our opponent's Pokemon will be Shaymin and stuff like that. So Trevenant is a decent attacker. We are not playing Dimension Valley here, but we are playing Double Colorless Energy and also not Psychic but Mystery Energy. So we'll get to that in a second. Let's just keep going through the cards in our deck. We have a computer search for obvious reasons. Discards cards from our hand. We already saw that's good in previous Shaymin decks. And of course grabs anything out of our deck. We have the 4 Crushing Hammers, which are kind of mandatory in this type of decks. We want to go through our deck really quickly, draw all the Crushing Hammers, play them, and then get them back. And then we have Hypnotoxic Laser for the same reason. We want to poison our opponents, we want to put them to sleep if possible, add the extra damage to our attacks, and then just play the Hypnotoxic Lasers again. We have a couple of Trainer's Mail in here, mostly to get our Ultra Balls, but of course we don't really mind getting another item, because we have so many items in our deck. It's 39 trainer cards, so Trainer's Mail helps us get to all of them except other Trainer's Mail, which sometimes happens, but oh well, what can you do? But yeah, it's mainly here for extra Ultra Balls, but if we can grab anything else, we don't really mind at all. It's a very good card, better than Necrobike, I feel like, in this decks. Then there's the Ultra Ball, which I'm playing 4 of, just because it's so good with Shaymin EX. And I have 3 VS Seeker to grab supporters from the discard pile, and we can choose which supporter we want to get. We have a couple of one-offs in here, actually more than a couple. We'll get to those in a second. I'm playing 3 Lysandre. As I mentioned in previous videos, Lysandre is getting more and more important to get our opponent's Trevenants out of the active position, to get their Wobbuffets out of the active position, just so that our Shaymins do not get stuck in our hand. That's really good. We have Lysandre's Trump card, and this card was banned today as I'm recording this video. I just recorded the editorial that I just posted in my channel. You guys can check it out. And I'm recording this video right after the editorial, which is kind of unfortunate because starting on the 15th of June 2015. This card will be banned, but until then there are 2 weekends coming, and I think there are nationals on both of them, so yeah, I feel like it's really worth it to play this deck anyways, especially since if this deck can actually change itself to work without Lysandre's trump card, I feel like it's actually useful to look at it how it is now. So yeah, Lysandre's trump card plays a really important role in this deck because it makes the deck infinite, so we can just cycle it back again and again with VS Seeker, single VS Seeker in there, and that means that we can play Shaymin, draw a lot of cards, play all the hammers, and then shuffle the deck back and start playing Shaymins again. That's the plan. Lysandre's trump card is here for that. It's a single card, and that's really, really strong for that reason. I have a single N in here. If you notice, we took out a lot of draw power from the supporters and put it in Pokemon form. Like we have the Jirachi and the Shaymin, of course, and the Ultra Balls become card drawing. So I feel like a single N is worth it just to punish our opponent if they took early prizes. If they killed a Shaymin or a Jirachi early on, for example, we can just N and make their life miserable in the early game. So I think it's a very good supporter to have for that reason. Of course, it can also help us in the early stages of the game, but it's here mostly to punish our opponents. We have 4 Professor Sycamore just because it's that good. If we're playing a supporter in the early game, it's likely that it's Professor Sycamore just because drawing 7 cards is really, really good. We have a single Team Flare Grunt to remove the energy. It actually removes any energy, but it has to be from the active Pokemon. But it does remove those basic energies, so sometimes it's really, really good. We are playing a Xerosic. I skipped the card, but I'll get back to that because Xerosic plays a similar role to Team Flare Grunt, but it also gets the energy from the bench Pokemon, but they have to be basic energy. That's the main reason why Xerosic is here. Of course, you can also take Head Ringer from your Shaymin, for example, and you can also take, I don't know, Spirit Link from a Pokemon, and that's really good. So Xerosic also plays an interesting role in this deck. Then I'm playing a couple of Wally. This might seem like it's a very important card, and it is. That's why I'm playing 2. I want to make sure that we have at least 1 in the deck. It might get prized, but having the ability to Wally on the first turn to get that Trevenant going as fast as quickly as turn 1, so the opponent actually gets like a turn 0 Forest Curse, which means he's item locked even before he starts playing. That's insanely good. But the fact of the matter is that Wally is really, really miserable in the later stages of the game. I mean, when you need a supporter and you only have a Wally in hand, oh man, that sucks. So I'm only playing a couple of them, and if you think about it, we can grab it with a lot of cards in the stack. We can use Ultra Ball into Jirachi X, we can Trainer's Mail, we have Shaymin X for card draw, we have Computer Search, so we actually have a lot of ways to get Wally on turn 1. Actually tried this deck in a tournament last weekend, and a lot of times where I didn't actually go for the Wally on turn 1, it was because I actually decided that it was more important to draw extra cards than it was to go for the Wally on the first turn. Sometimes that happens. So yeah, I'm only playing a couple. I feel like they serve me well, so I don't really think we should play more in the deck. But of course, you guys are entitled to your opinion, so if you think I'm wrong, please tell me so in the comments below. We have 3 Verbank City Gyms, mostly to trump our opponent's Silent Labs because we want to get going with our Pokemon that have abilities, our basics, like Jirachi and Shaymin X with a setup. And we need to bounce their Silent Labs. Of course, Verbank City Gym also adds damage to the Hypnotoxic Laser, and that's pretty good. We have a couple of Floatstones in here. Sometimes it's really decent to when we don't have energy on an early Trevenant, because early on in the game we are putting a Trevenant out there and we are mostly attacking with Shaymin and getting it back to hand just to draw cards. So we need a way to retreat from a Trevenant, and that's it. It's also really gonna Jirachi if our opponent decides to Lysandre it out to see if they can get out of the item lock for a longer period of time. And the Floatstone is really good there. We have 3 Muscle Band just because they're so good with Trevenant. If you 3-slam with Muscle Band on, that's 80 damage. So a couple of 3-slams plus the damage on the bench, that kills an EX Pokemon, which is, I think, pretty good. And then all my energy are non-basic. I'm playing 4 DCE, of course, main energy of the deck, and then I'm playing 4 Mystery Energy, which is pretty good because it cuts the retreat cost of our Trevenants. So if we have a mystery energy in there. We can retreat by discarding the mystery energy, which is not the best thing ever, but oh well, it's not the worst thing also. And of course it allows us to tree slam, and the reason I do not play psychic energy is that it doesn't really make a difference. If we are going with Trevenant on the offensive, it doesn't really matter if our opponent plays a crushing or an enhanced hammer. Mostly they won't be able to play them, but nowadays I feel like most decks actually cut in enhanced hammer because where the enhanced hammer shines is the matchups where they can't actually play the items, which is against Seismitoad and Trevenant decks. So yeah, that's the reasoning. I feel like having the energy like this is actually better. So yeah, that's all about the deck. Let's play it. Hopefully we can get a decent match here. Hopefully we can grab a win. We'll see about that. Seems like we're playing against a Seismitoad Fairy Manectric deck of sorts. This deck does have some difficult matchups like Mega Manectric, which hits for 110, so it kills Trevenant on one hit, which is unfortunate. So, and it attacks for a couple of energies, so we really need to hit with the hammers. Okay, our opponent ends. I'm actually glad for that. Oh, this means I can just Trevenant on the first turn. That's pretty good, I feel like. And I can also try to remove his energy. I hope my hammer hits. We'll see about that. We have a couple of hammers actually, so if this one fails, we have another one, which I hope will hit. Oh, it fails also, so maybe this one, yeah, this works. So I'm just going to item lock my opponent, and then next turn I can Sycamore and draw a million cards, hopefully. So our opponent wakes up, so that's terrible. But let's see. One can actually retreat here, but he won't be able to play items. He's playing a very similar deck to what we've seen on the last regional. Oh, there's a Spritzy. Last regionals on the United States. We saw a deck like this on the top 4, but he actually played Skyfield and a lot of different big basics of sorts. But it actually seems like he's playing a basic Fairy Energy, so I just hope I can. Okay, there's a Team Flare Grunt, which doesn't do much, so I'm just going to Sycamore. Oh my god, terrible, terrible hand. Okay, we get an Ultra Ball, thankfully, which is basically everything that we needed here. So I can play the Verbank down. So I'm going to discard the N and an energy. I feel like we have so many that I feel like I can do that. I can draw the Shaymin. I'm going to put an energy on Trevenant just to get rid of one card, and I think I'll also play the Stadium because I really need to draw. But yeah, having the Lysandre is really good, especially if my opponent does not trump our Stadium, just because we can bring another Pokemon to the front, like the we can't bring the Regirock because he has the Omega Barrier, but we can grab the, I don't know, the Trevenant, which retreats for 3, so maybe that's going to be really, really good. I don't know, let's see. Okay, we did draw a Muscle Band. I think I can play that down, but I don't actually feel like I want to play this Shaymin. I feel like I can actually get rid of 3 cards from my hand, maybe even more next turn, after my opponent, if my opponent trumps our Stadium, and we can actually play a supporter, so I'm just happy. Keeping my opponent item locked is probably going for the Aromatisse, if he has it in hand. If he doesn't, well, he can play any balls, and he already played the supporter in Pokemon Fan Club. So there's a Manectric, there's an Yveltal. Let's see if my opponent can actually item lock us. Maybe I should have played the Muscle Band down, but yeah, that would be an extra card. But I'm actually going to be able to attack with Trevenant, which is pretty good. Okay, so my opponent just keeps using Geomancy, which is pretty decent, to be honest. I would honestly hope that I'm just going for the Spritzy. I feel like get rid of that, prevent him from moving energy around. I feel like that's the play here, so I'm going to put this thing here, also this energy. I'm going to Lysandre out his Spritzy, and I'm going to play the Shaymin. And I'm going to draw 3 cards. There's a Hammer, which I will gladly play here, and it fails. Oh, another Hammer that fails. That's kind of unfortunate. Okay, so I want to discard this energy, and I guess I can discard the Stadium. which would be the best thing for us here? I think I'm going for... I'm going to draw a lot of cards here. I'm going to draw 4 cards, so I think I'm actually going for the Sycamore. Keep that Stadium in hand in case our opponent... Because if we draw Lysandre, it might be really useful to trump our opponent's Stadium. Okay, so we can actually go for another... We did draw the Lysandre, so we can actually go for another Phantom. So I think I'm actually going for that. Yeah, but that would mean I have to discard the energy, and I don't really want to do that. So I think I'm going to save this card in hand. Let's just kill the Spritzy. And then I'm going to deal damage to, I think, the Seismitoad. I mean, this Yveltal is going to wreck my Trevenant, but yeah, don't really know. I think I'm actually going for the Yveltal, and I guess the Xerneas, because that's a quick prize. No, I'm going for the Seismitoad actually, because I feel like that's the best attacker for my opponent, unless he has a Rainbow Energy in hand. Okay, so Seismitoad comes down. Actually, really feel like I want to grab his Yveltal and start dealing damage to it really quickly here. So I'm just going for the Yveltal, and I'm going to put this energy down, I guess. Yeah. And Tree Slam. And now I can actually deal damage to the Xerneas and the Seismitoad again. Alright, if my opponent fails to attack, we're going to be in a really good position, and he has to draw the Rainbow Energy because he did not play one last turn, so I'm feeling rather good right now, but we never know, right? If he does not kill our Trevenant, he's just done, I think, because Yveltal was like his best attacker here. He could just go through our Trevenants really, really quickly. Yeah, and we are out of item lock. That's perfect. So we can just discard. Let's just see. We can get out of this Trainer's Mill. I have a Floatstone here. We don't really need that, so I'm just going for the Muscle Band. I feel like. Yeah, I'm going to discard. I feel like both of the stadiums. Yeah, they have played their role. I'm going to grab a Phantom, put it down, play this in case we get item locked again. I think I'm going to use my energy also, and we do not have another Trevenant in the deck, so I'm just going to keep this hand, and next turn we can Sycamore. So Tree Slam, going to draw 3 prizes here, so I'm going for, I guess, no real reason to go for the Seismitoad again. Yeah, last turn I shouldn't have gone for the Seismitoad. I guess we can go for the Regirock, because that's 80, and then if he goes with the Regirock, we can actually knock it out in 1 turn. So that's pretty good. My opponent uses his Seismitoad, of course. Brings it forward, but there's 30 damage, but we can actually 2-hit knock out that Seismitoad. So yeah, Trevenant coming down. Can play this dude, but that means we actually have to draw the other Trevenant that we have in the prizes, and when that happens I think we will win the game, so I don't think there's any point to play that at all. And Zero Zik does nothing here because his Regirock is actually protecting that energy, so if I play that thing I'm actually going to be in trouble. Well, the fact that we got the second energy is pretty good, so we got the second attacker going, so I'm actually going to Tree Slam. Hopefully we can Tree Slam twice. I'm still going to keep attacking that Regirock, just because if I ever get to... actually should have... 20 of those damage that went to the Seismitoad should have actually gone to the Regirock, because that we just get rid of 2 energy. So my opponent is probably going for a Spritzy here, which will allow him to switch the energy around. That's pretty bad, but at the same time, if he does not retreat with his Seismitoad, he's just dead, so I can't really complain, I think. Okay, so there's Spritzy and some other card that I did not get to see, but I'm assuming it's another Spritzy, so... Oh, he evolves. Okay, so we just won the game here. Yep, seems like it, so I'm just going to do the honors. And just going to spread some damage around. Well, that's it, that's victory. I guess this was actually pretty decent match. We were always in control. I mean, first turn item lock, I guess that's what it means. I think our opponent's deck was really ready to get down with the Seismitodes, but it's playing against Trevenant. You're actually playing against another item lock deck, but your it actually attacks in a totally different way. So I don't actually think there's a deck that attacks both Seismitode and Trevenant on equal measures. So that's why I think Trevenant is a decent choice for this metagame. If you want an item lock, but in a different way, I think Trevenant is a very good choice. And you guys could see that here. I mean, our opponent did have the is on Trevenant EX, but I guess that couldn't do as much as he could against the Seismitoad or something like that. So yeah, that's a deck for you guys. I hope you enjoy this. I know Lysandre's trump card is getting banned once again, but I figured that we still got a couple of weeks of Trevenant and Seismitoad decks going all crazy with all those hammers and all that. And we didn't even get to play our Lysandre's trump card. I guess we didn't need it. So maybe the decks can survive without it. I think this deck can actually do that a little bit better than Seismitoad. Yeah, I've talked a lot. This video is getting long. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Tell me what you think in the comments as usual. Like, subscribe, whatever. You guys know the drill. Well, see you guys next time. Bye.